Hello, good afternoon. I think we can start this interesting session. Is everybody seated? Do you have all your earphones and everything else? Well, our session is going there's still some places here if it's okay. Okay, well, first of all, the translators asked me to be patient, so you please look for your channels. They will try to arrange for English to be translated, everything in English, and they will be in the questions later on French, English translation as well, and the Spanish will be translated in English as well. But just please check your channels yourself. Our session is, small people coming. Our session is going to deal with a concrete example. You know, we're talking here about global landscapes, and forests are part of the global landscapes. And we are all very much interested in this agenda to move forward, but there is a little bit of a small examples happening already where countries are facing challenges. And one of those things is the reference levels for REDD+, which, as you know, is being adopted as part of the Warsaw Framework. And countries are really progressing on that. So just to summarize the context where we are dealing now in this forum, well, the REDD readiness is shaping nicely in many countries. There is a great progress on several readiness components, including the forest reference levels. And if you remember, there was a first submission before last year by Brazil, and the technical assessment happened. And that was a huge precedent. It was a very important step for the implementation of REDD+. But it was followed by 5 more the year after. So I think it's very important that the countries which are not yet submitted, they will be exposed, first of all, to discussions among themselves of what are the challenges, obstacles, solutions they are finding, but also, and I appreciate very much that our colleagues from Colombia are here, they could discuss with a country that already even went through the technical assessment process this year. So the panel will provide this opportunity for the panelists and for all of you after you can ask also your questions. As you know, I mean, just to introduce that's the context in terms of the 4 decisions related to the forest reference levels. This is the guidance that the countries are following for compiling the submissions, for submitting the submissions, and later on for the technical assessment to be happen. And this is a very unprecedented situation. That is the first time that developing countries are submitting this type of technical information to the conventions, and they're going through a technical assessment. So if you are been in this business for some time, you have to appreciate that that's an unprecedented step. The situation with the submission is as said before, is this one. Brazil submitted in June 2014, and the technical assessment report was out, and the submission was modified after the assessment, so it was improved due to the assessment process in December 2014. Later on, some countries got excited about it, so there were submissions from Colombia, Ecuador, Guyana, Malaysia, and Mexico that were again assessed during 2015, and I think except for Malaysia, the other countries already have the reports on the web, so you can have a look on those. And now the question mark is how many countries will report this year, will submit this year, and how many countries will go through the submission next year. So I hope that some of the countries that are here, they may get excited about that, and if they don't submit next year, they will submit after next year. So our panelists are Cambodia, Republic of Congo, Republic Democratic of Congo, Zambia, and Colombia. And we will start with the presentation of our colleague from Cambodia. Please stick to 12 minutes as far as you can. I know that's a very interesting topic, but you will have the opportunity later on to discuss with the panel and the audience.
Thank you, Maria, for a very nice introduction. Maybe my English is not very properly well, but however I can work with my team. My team is composed of internal teams, and I mean national technical teams, plus international experts from UNREDD and especially from JICA. So let me go through our slides. So the overview of progress on FREL. Of course, now the situation of development FREL is under developing. So there are some areas still missing that technical people has to be, more development on this. So we are intend to submit within a couple of months. However, according to I discussed with Maria that we are unfortunately that we don't have what called opportunity in the middle of the year. So that's why from our technical part we try to complete by this month. So let's see from the government decision making. The main reason of we are developing FRELs. First is to follow and support UNFCCC process. Second, intend to implementation REDD plus mitigation action, and therefore intend to monitor and assess within the country. And especially we are approaching result-based payment. The purpose of Forest Reference Level in Cambodian, first is to perform, as I said, to perform mitigation action to support both domestic and international guidance, to support implementation of future REDD Plus implementation activity, and to develop REDD Plus is primarily for UNFCCC, but also consideration of other climate finance from UNFCCC. This is the scale of Cambodian developing FRELs. We are considering at the national scale. The reason is we are looking for data availability, and also cross-cutting issue at national level. So we are comprising with 3 different institutes. Linkage to national policy, especially to identify the REDD Plus, to identify the implementation REDD Plus. Especially the human resources capacity are mostly available in the national scale, and also follow the ultimate goal from UNFCCC. The scope of Cambodian FREL, first we are looking to the activities. As among 5 activities under REDD Plus, we are consider only deforestation. And for the future, for future mean that in next assessment, we are still considering the forest degradation by fuel wood consumption, especially plus identify other activity. The pools, we are considering all pools, especially in this moment. We are looking above ground biomass and below ground biomass ratio. And for the future, will be other consideration, dead wood, litter, and soils. The gas is only CO2, as Cambodian is developing country, so there's not much from the other gases. The only emission from forest. That is the conservative perspective. Let me looking a bit through to how Cambodian develop FRELs. So we looking 3 different time assessment. That is, we are looking the 3 time historical assessment. First in 2006, and second in 2010, and recently we are closely to finalize this result in 2014, let's say. So we considering 2014 as the base map for current and future assessment. For this assessment, 2014 assessment, we are using satellite age that comprising end of 2016 and 2014, mostly in cover in 2014. So for other two maps, 2010, we are upgrading 2000 from the existing 2000 map by in the forest area we are cover the area that we could not access. So we are covered by Lost Avenue 2, and non-forest we are cooperation with other data. Example from Cambodian, that is data we are taken from Mekong River Commission, MOC. So 2006, we also upgrading from existing map from FA, that is Forest Administration map. So this map are verified by GRAS. So we are verifying in non-forest area. And also these two map, we will be considered other data, additional data that can be provide more input to better result. This is the graph showing that from 2006, 2010, and 2014. Why I'm not showing the figure 2014, because there's some technical missing. As example, the consistency is very difficult and challenge for us to be consistent with those three maps. So the result is still finalized, and also we have to be report to our government. So, but somehow we have followed our forest definition for REDD. That is, the threshold is 5 meters, and the area is 0.5 hectares. The tree height, the ground cover is more than 10%. The important message is for REDD plus definition, we are exclude perennial crop, oil palm and rubber to be considering of safeguard information. This is the map showing 2014. So there are some, slightly screened up for this map. Especially we would like what I would like to show here. We are updating the class from previously from 8 class to 22 classes that showing in the regions. So we are focused. We are more focused now on land use rather than before. So this is the maps cover change, but still need some assessment. Need some assistance from FAO to be conduct on the forest type accuracy. This is our methodology. So we are considering the historical average, 8 year, and the updating rolling is 4 year. So the reason is we are very time consuming on discussion on this, how we are selecting between 8 year and 4 year, and lastly we are considering 8 year as conservative, especially the area that I said that this is one of the area that I said that is still missing. Is example because of lacking available data. So the projection is still discussion. Adjustment for national circumstance we will consider. This is what I would like to show is between activity data, emission data, and especially we are focusing on FREL. Example in here, we have assessment on 2014, and we coming out the result 2015. So the different levels, we are also coming out with the result in 2015, but we are intend to submit in 2016. This is from the technical level point of view, what I would say. So the biennial update report, it will be on 2018 and 19, I think. 2018, the result will be produced and then ready to submit in 2019. So we still have time. The challenges that Cambodian face, first is not clear path from the policies level. That means that we have to pass different level of policy, so time is consuming. The forest definition, because we are extract from the national forest definition rubber, oil palm, and perennial crops, so this is a challenge for us. Data accessibility, we still not very clear on the location of the concession. So according to the forest definition, so we are very difficult to identify the area of non-forest within those polygon. The activity data is still not include degradation in this moment. The last point is the cross-cutting issue. Because of comprising different institutional agency have mandate to manage our forest. That's why at national scale also we already consider at national scale, but there's a lot of issue of capacity, human capacity that is not enough, especially the manpower. This is the area need more assistance. So the first, this is the first time to intend to submit a FREL. So there's a lot of gap understanding, especially from the assessment process. To learn and share from various countries that FAO already provide one workshop, but however we would like to understand more how the country experience with different area consideration. Example from Malay, they are consider only the protection area. Especially how we can to make our document appropriate for UNFCCC submission. I think. Thank you, Mary.
Yeah, well, I think we can go through all the presentations, so keep your questions for later. And the next presenter, it will be our colleague from Republic of Congo, George. The stage is yours. Please, 12 minutes.
Merci Maria. Bonjour à tout le monde. Je vais en français vous présenter l'approche de la République du Congo pour son niveau de référence. C'est la première fois que nous allons présenter ce niveau de référence au grand public. Nous l'avons fait au pays, au niveau des ateliers départementaux et au niveau de l'atelier national. C'est un processus que nous avons simplifié. Nous avons rendu ce processus un peu plus simple pour que l'ensemble des parties prenantes comprennent ce que c'est que le niveau de référence et s'impliquent dans le niveau de référence, parce que REDD+, c'est un processus inclusif et largement participatif. Voilà un peu l'architecture de la REDD+ en République du Congo. C'est un peu ces 5 grandes composantes qui font partie des volets réduction des émissions pour l'axe 1, avec la lutte contre la déforestation non planifiée, la lutte contre la dégradation forestière non planifiée, ça c'est du point de vue de l'axe 1, les émissions. Lorsqu'on aborde ces 2 programmes, on ne parle que des émissions. Et au niveau du Congo, qui a fait des grands efforts dans le cadre de l'aménagement forestier durable, parce que nous avons les plus grandes forêts aménagées certifiées en termes de superficie les plus grandes dans le monde. Nous avons insisté sur le plus avec le volet conservation de la biodiversité, gestion durable des forêts et accroissement des stocks de carbone pour le volet absorption. Et le processus REDD+ en République du Congo est pris comme un outil de développement durable. Parce qu'on a dit on va contribuer à la lutte contre le changement climatique, mais pour mieux impliquer les parties prenantes, pour mieux impliquer le gouvernement, il faut intégrer la dimension développement durable, il faut intégrer la dimension lutte contre la pauvreté, et c'est à cet exercice que s'emploie le processus REDD+ en République du Congo. La République du Congo a choisi l'approche par étapes pour faciliter une large participation des parties prenantes. Est-ce que le processus REDD nécessite à ce que l'ensemble des parties prenantes, l'ensemble des partenaires participent? Il n'y a pas de des domaines qui devraient être tabous. Tous les domaines devraient avoir la participation de l'ensemble. Les jeunes, les femmes, les populations autochtones, les scientifiques. Et pour cette approche par étapes, nous avons commencé par le niveau des émissions de référence pour les forêts. Parce que dans le cadre des décisions au niveau de REDD, nous avons la possibilité de passer par le niveau des émissions de référence pour les forêts, le FREL en anglais, ou le niveau de référence pour les forêts, le FR. Et lorsque nous avons, pour cette phase, nous prenons le niveau des émissions de référence pour les forêts, avec quatre grands axes. La déforestation, on prend en compte, on va suivre la déforestation planifiée, la déforestation non planifiée, la dégradation forestière planifiée et la dégradation forestière non planifiée. Nous avons fait ce distinguo pour simplifier les choses et pour mieux intégrer les données. Un peu plus tard, nous allons passer au niveau de référence pour les forêts en incluant les autres éléments, notamment la gestion durable des forêts. C'est assez complexe à inclure dans le cadre des émissions. C'est plus facile à inclure dans le cadre des absorptions. La conservation de la biodiversité avec les aires protégées et l'accroissement des stocks de carbone avec les programmes d'afforestation et de reboisement. Au Congo, nous avons lancé un grand programme d'1 million d'hectares dans le cadre du PRONAR sur 10 ans. Si on tient compte du fait que le Congo est caractérisé par une forte couverture forestière, vous voyez, 69% du territoire est couvert par la forêt, mais nous avons les taux de déforestation les plus bas. Les taux de déforestation historiques du Congo sont très bas. Et nous tenons compte de cette disposition pour faire que l'approche, pour le niveau de référence que nous avons pris, c'est une approche historique, mais ajustée. Nous allons ajuster notre approche en considérant les données historiques, mais en ajustant avec les données futures, parce que la tendance de la déforestation, la dégradation va être assez importante. Une nouvelle carte forestière a été élaborée. Cette nouvelle carte prend en compte la définition de la forêt, parce qu'au niveau du Congo, la forêt a été définie, c'est la définition nationale. 0,50 hectares, superficie minimale, 30% la couverture du haut-pied et 3 mètres la hauteur minimale des arbres. C'est assez particulier, mais nous avons, au niveau national, validé ça. Les données historiques ont constitué le point de départ pour déterminer le niveau de référence. Et nous avons voulu avoir une approche réaliste qui prend en compte les émissions forestières liées à la déforestation planifiée, ce qui sort de l'exploitation forestière industrielle, liée à la déforestation non planifiée, pardon, la déforestation planifiée, ce qui sort de l'agriculture et les industries minières. La déforestation non planifiée, ce qui sort des populations qui, souvent sans autorisation, ouvrent des superficies pour faire l'agriculture. Nous avons intégré la dégradation forestière planifiée avec les industriels forestiers et la dégradation forestière non planifiée pour suivre un peu l'exploitation illégale. La période de référence pour le niveau de référence du Congo, c'est de 2000 à 2012. L'ajustement a pris en compte les circonstances nationales et cet ajustement a pris en compte les prévisions de la déforestation et la dégradation pour la période 2015 à 2025. Est-ce qu'au niveau national, on a opté que d'ici 2025, le Congo devrait être émergent? C'est une ambition, c'est une volonté et nous croyons réussir à cette ambition. Les résultats de l'inventaire forestier national vont nous permettre d'intégrer pour les pôles la biomasse aérienne, la biomasse souterraine, le bois mort, la litière et le carbone du sol. Nous avons fini notre inventaire forestier national et nous allons intégrer les données de l'inventaire forestier national pour remplacer les facteurs par défaut du GIEC qui ont été pris en compte dans les premiers calculs. Le seul gaz qui est pris en compte, c'est le gaz carbonique. À ce jour, le Congo dispose de 2 niveaux de référence. On va dire pourquoi. Parce que nous avons dit on fait un niveau de référence national et un niveau de référence sous-régional. Parce que le Congo s'est engagé dans un programme de réduction des émissions dans 2 départements, les 2 départements les plus forestiers du Congo, Sanga et Likwala, que vous avez sur la carte du fond. Les résultats actuels de notre niveau de référence se présentent sur ce camembert-là, avec une forte pression sur les émissions liées à la dégradation forestière planifiée. On se rend compte que l'exploitation forestière industrielle et des bois, des forêts naturelles et aussi des plantations prend une part importante. Et c'est ce qui ressort au finish dans les résultats du niveau de référence. La moyenne historique 2000-2012, c'est le trait du vert en bas, c'est autour de 0,15%. Et avec l'ajustement, nous sommes à 0,31%. Mais nous avons voulu comparer avec ce qui s'est fait ailleurs. Et l'exemple que nous avons pris, c'est l'exemple de nos collègues de la Guyane anglaise, pour voir un peu est-ce qu'on est proche de la réalité. Et nous, en comparant avec ce qui s'est fait par nos collègues de la Guyane anglaise, nous sommes pratiquement sur les mêmes limites. La moyenne mondiale, c'est celle qui ressort en haut, Batini. Voilà un peu le résultat auquel la République du Congo est parvenue pour son niveau de référence. Et nous avons aussi voulu comparer avec le niveau de référence Sanga-Likwala, parce que nous sommes dans le programme réduction des émissions Sanga-Likwala. C'est la limite FCPF qu'on a mis là, qui situe le niveau de référence Sanga-Likwala. Et le niveau où nous sommes parvenus nous rassure. Et en tant que coordinateur national, tout le tour qu'on a fait pour arriver à ce résultat a été fortement applaudi par les parties prenantes nationales. Et nous avons décidé de faire notre soumission. Et après la COP 21, nous pensons en janvier faire la soumission de notre niveau de référence. La République du Congo, qui fait partie des pays à forte couverture forestière et un faible taux de déforestation, va chercher à ajuster son niveau de référence vers le haut afin de mieux refléter les circonstances nationales. Nous avons évité d'avoir un processus très académique ou trop technique. On l'a simplifié, mais la simplification, ça ne veut pas dire qu'on n'a pas pris en compte les approches techniques. On l'a simplifié pour que ça soit compris par tous. Aujourd'hui, c'est moi qui présente ce niveau de référence. Demain, c'est un peuple autochtone qui sera en face de vous pour vous présenter ce niveau de référence. Nous avons simplifié l'approche, on a simplifié sa compréhension pour permettre son appropriation par toutes les parties prenantes. Je vous remercie.
Thank you very much, George. Even I understood the reference level of Republic of Congo. I think the next speaker is Deuteronomy Kasaro from Zambia. Deuteronomy, the floor is yours. And thank you, George, for keeping the time. You were just 12 minutes exact.
Thank you very much. I'll present the process and the decisions that we've gone through in Zambia in relation to the reference emission level. So the presentation will cover of course, the REDD requirements, the technical assessment, that will not be covered, but the scale, scope, and the forest definition, the FREL components, the construction, and then we look at the challenges that we've gone through. So Zambia basically is covering an area of about 752,000 square kilometers, and 66% of the forests are forests. And of course, the deforestation rate, as it was done in 2005, was estimated at 250,000 to 300,000 hectares. But as I present, you will notice that the deforestation rate is much lower than that. Basically, that's the position of Zambia. We are landlocked. And those are the provinces. We have 10 provinces in Zambia. And on the right, those are the major river basins that the REDD process has defined in terms of the investments that we need to undertake. So basically under REDD, there are 4 elements that we need to achieve. The REDD strategy, which Zambia has done and completed the strategy and finally editing it for it to be launched. We have a national forest monitoring system that has been completed also. There is a web portal for it. And the safeguard information system, which has also been linked to the forest information system, the national forest monitoring system. And of course, the forest reference emission level, which we actually intend to submit in January 2016. So before I go into the processes, there are a few things that we made as decisions at the beginning of the process. That the REDD Plus will be Zambian-owned process, and that will align to the UNFCCC as much as possible. As much as possible simply means that UNFCCC is made up of different countries, and we normally compromise on a lot of things, but we will take the Zambian position stronger. And that the reference emission levels or the performance will not be just for GHG. And these were decisions that were taken before we moved into the process. And that it should not be to access carbon finance, because carbon finance is just one of the many things that people can get from forests. And of course, that we will contribute to the to the global effort, but focusing on the national standards that we have. And of course, we would consider different methods in coming up with a FREL and approaches, but pick one which is suitable for Zambia. And of course, we adopted a wait and see process. I think a number of countries submitted and we were watching. And I think now we have decisions to submit. So in terms of the purpose for FREL, for Zambia, the first one is domestic. Domestic in the sense that at national level, we need support to manage the forests and landscapes. And we can only do that if we justify and show the need to manage these resources. The second one is that of international finance, that for result-based payment system, there is an opportunity that we can use FREL to access that. And of course, FREL will also be used to measure the intended nationally determined contribution, which Zambia has actually submitted. Now, in terms of scope, scale, scope, and the forest definition, we have decided that we'll take the scale at national level. Of course, implementation is provincial and district level and community level. And only deforestation has been considered. And then in terms of the pools, we have above ground, below ground, and dead wood, and only carbon dioxide has been considered. Now, in terms of deforestation, we did a study, and basically the key drivers of deforestation, agricultural expansion, infrastructure development, wood extraction, and of course some environmental factors are basically forest fires. Now, in terms of definition of forest, that definition of forest is for forest management, not for FREL. Because some people are trying to calculate every element of the definition. This definition is for forest management, and FREL is just one of the components of forest management. So, but the one in red is what is being used to define what the work that we have done. So it's basically, we are using the 10% cover and 0.5 hectares as a forest. In terms of construction, as I said, it's national scale, and we are taking a historical average, and we have stratified according to carbon map. The reason is that the carbon map links very well with the agroecological zones, and the emission factors would be a bit easier, not easier in the sense, but logically concluded if we use these maps. And we've not made any adjustments in terms of the national circumstance. So as I said, we are taking a historical average, and that's basically how we have tried to construct it. We are using the carbon map, and our base map, where the forest loss has been calculated, is based on the 2010 land cover map, where ground truthing was done, and it's been considered to be a good map to do all the analysis. And basically, that's the process that we used with the satellite images. That's Landsat, basically, until we generated the losses that forests Zambia has. So we have the 2010 land cover map as a base, and then we have 2000 to 2010 forest loss, and then 2010 to 2014 forest loss. And this has defined our FREL. So for the loss final for 2010, 2014, that's an example of how it looks. And now the results. For 2010-2014, in light green, that is accumulated figures for the loss of forests. And for Zambia, northwestern, central, western province have been considered to have lost a good amount of forests over the years, especially the 2010-2014 period. That's basically showing what the stable forests are, the stable non-forests are, and then the losses that we have over the period. Now, in terms of coming up with the construction of the FREL, the method, we had 4 options to choose from. And this was the first option, that we can get an average from 2000 to 2014 and look at that as our FREL. But we have also the pros and cons that we looked at. It would be good to get everything, but probably it may not be the best predictor of what we are looking for. The second option was to take the average of when we had the highest deforestation rates. And the third option was to get, as I said, 2010 is our base, so we get 5 years before 2010 and 5 years after 2010. The fourth option was to do a projection. Again, we found that we didn't have enough data to do that work. So in the end, we opted for the third option, which provide the FREL for Zambia. So we get the average from 2010 to 2000 to 2010, and then from 2010 to 2014. So five years over the 2010 period on each side. And then we got the average of 16.49 metric tons of carbon equivalent per year. And so that's the process we've gone through to generate the FREL. And this has been with stakeholders. So it's not basically a technical work that has been done and then presented, but at each stage we had to meet with stakeholders and then decide what our next move would be. Now, basically in terms of the national circumstances, although these are issues that we will be considering as we move forward, there is quite a demand for energy in the recent years because of the shortfall in rainfall. Our main source of electricity, Zambia enjoys a lot of hydroelectric and power, but we've lost, in fact, a lot of water has just gone because we didn't have enough rainfall, and now people have opted for charcoal. So the pressure is high, and then we have new districts. We had 75 districts, now we have 104, and all these are clearing new forests. Infrastructure development, mining, rural-to-rural migration, and of course the policies that we have to look at. In terms of the challenges that we are facing, the cost of satellite images, we've been using Landsat for obvious reasons, and of course getting the appropriate technology and methodologies for processes that we've gone through has been a challenge. And of course, the level of forest loss, what do we want to get? Is it deforestation or forest degradation alone? And of course, the varying type of forest that we have. In terms of our approach to forest degradation, At the moment, we've not made that decision to go through it because the Miombo woodland is a dry forest, and we feel that we should be able to find an appropriate method to assess deforestation degradation, so we cannot include it at the moment. How did we consider the scale? Of course, the capacity, our capacity to do that, and of course the approach that we've taken for REDD, which is landscape, and then availability of data, and of course the need to track the changes gave us that option. The way forward, as I conclude, we need to do an extra work for 2016, and then of course measuring degradation, and then we need to include gain and regrowth. We have data we've collected soil samples for the whole country during the forest inventories that were concluded last year, and we have to find a way of analyzing this data, the best way to analyze it. And of course, during that process, we also collected for litter. And then we have to include this in the process. Thank you very much for your attention.
So we have two speakers left. Our next speaker is Jean-Paul from Republic of Congo.
Thank you, Maria. Good evening, everybody. Unfortunately, I will make my presentation in French. I need to comply with the fact that French is the official DRC language, so I cannot do it in English, so sorry about that. But the slides are in English, so... and then feel free to raise your question in French, Spanish, Lingala, or Swahili too. I'm going to deal with that too. Donc, bonsoir, je vais présenter le niveau de référence, la méthodologie pour décrire le niveau de référence de la RDC, même si je suis le seul présentateur aujourd'hui, mais c'est un travail de plusieurs personnes, notamment la coordination nationale REDD de la RDC, ainsi que plusieurs experts qui proviennent des institutions locales, du gouvernement, des peuples autochtones, etc. Et même d'un collègue qui vient d'arriver depuis Yale. Bonsoir Peter, je vois qu'il vient d'arriver. Il vient de très très loin pour suivre cette présentation. Et donc le schéma de ma présentation va bien évidemment s'atteler sur une brève introduction, pour ensuite parler de l'échelle du niveau de référence ainsi que de la portée, des facteurs d'émission, de l'approche qu'on est en train d'adopter pour pouvoir la construire, ainsi que les améliorations futures auxquelles nous devrons faire face. Première chose, je voudrais d'abord mentionner le fait que la RDC a mis en œuvre sa stratégie REDD depuis presque 6 ans maintenant, et que cela a eu quelques accomplissements majeurs, dont on peut évoquer un tout petit peu ici les faits. C'est d'abord le fait qu'il y a maintenant en place un système national pour le suivi de la couverture forestière qui est installé au niveau du ministère de l'Environnement avec des techniciens locaux qui y travaillent, qui a tout un système d'inventaire des gaz à effet de serre et qu'il y a un système de suivi par satellite des changements dans la couverture forestière. Donc cela, pour ceux qui connaissent la RDC, il y a 10-15 ans, c'était tout simplement impensable qu'à ce jour, il puisse y avoir un système comme ça en place. C'est le cas aujourd'hui avec l'appui de nombreux partenaires, notamment la FAO, notamment REDD, et donc nous leur en sommes très reconnaissants. Un autre accomplissement majeur, c'est le fait que la RDC a défini depuis 2-3 ans maintenant sa stratégie cadre nationale pour la REDD+, avec une forte appropriation au plus haut niveau politique, ce qui évidemment aide à ce que la REDD puisse prendre de l'ampleur au niveau du pays, qui est aussi issu d'une très large consultation. Pardon. Désolé. Qui est aussi issu d'une large consultation au niveau national avec le peuple local, avec la société civile, ainsi que les universités, les centres de recherche. Mais aussi, en troisième lieu, l'un des accomplissements majeurs de la stratégie REDD de RDC, c'est le fait que il y a des projets REDD+, qui sont en pleine implémentation au niveau du pays, dans des zones pilotes, mais aussi des projets qui sont en train de se mettre pour d'autres, pas seulement pour la Convention cadre des Nations Unies, mais pour d'autres fins, sur des marchés volontaires, et donc ils font que tout cela mette la REDD au niveau national dans une sorte de perspective où il y a beaucoup d'enjeux qui peuvent être discutés. Alors pour la RDC, la RDC s'engage à pouvoir soumettre ce niveau de référence pour à l'occasion de la prochaine COP, la COP 22. Et donc, pour le moment, nous nous attelons à finaliser la méthodologie pour d'ici le premier trimestre de l'année prochaine. Il faudra faire évidemment la quantification du niveau de référence ainsi que tous les travaux d'ajustement qui sont en pleine discussion pour le moment, avec la possibilité d'inclure la dégradation forestière ainsi que l'augmentation des stocks de carbone. Mais on va en parler tout de suite dans la suite. Alors, en ce qui concerne le niveau de référence, comme mesure intérimaire pour la soumission prochaine, c'est que la RDC va présenter un niveau de référence qui est au niveau sous-national. Pourquoi est-ce qu'on a opté pour le niveau sous-national? C'est sur base d'une série de critères, encore une fois, sur base d'une large consultation, où on a pris en compte les zones d'intérêt REDD+, au niveau du pays. On a pris en compte le fait que quels sont les niveaux sous-nationaux pour lesquels les gouvernements locaux peuvent faire une meilleure appropriation. On a essayé de viser les zones pour lesquelles il y a des points chauds de la perte de la couverture forestière et aussi l'existence de capacités nécessaires au niveau local pour mettre en place ce niveau de référence. Et l'on a choisi donc 3 provinces, qui sont les provinces du Bandundu, de l'Équateur et de la province orientale, qui sont les 3 plus grandes provinces forestières du pays, qui couvrent environ 1 200 000 km² d'étendue, qui représente la moitié de la superficie du pays et qui représente aussi 58% de la couverture forestière nationale. Et au même moment, représente 50% de la perte de la couverture forestière cumulée sur la période 2000-2014. Et ces zones sont notamment des zones pour lesquelles ce sont des bassins d'approvisionnement en charbon de bois, qui est l'une des causes majeures de la perte de couverture forestière en RDC, pour les grandes villes, comme Kinshasa, Kisangani, Goma ou à l'est, Mbandaka. Et alors, dans ces zones qui ont été choisies, il y a évidemment l'existence de projets REDD qui sont actifs, notamment le projet Maindombe qui est souvent discuté. Et donc voilà, on voit ici ces différentes provinces forestières qui sont là, les 3, qui sont un continuum au départ des zones savanicoles et des forêts de type Miombo, forêts claires, vers des forêts plus denses, dans le cœur du bassin, et vers la province orientale, allant vers des savanes du nord-est. Alors, le choix de la portée du niveau de référence est surtout lié à la disponibilité des données. Vous savez, comme dans plusieurs pays en développement, on a souvent du mal à avoir les données nécessaires, qu'elles soient compilées au bon niveau et qu'elles soient disponibles. Et donc, on a voulu pouvoir travailler dans les zones où on avait aussi des données qui étaient suffisantes. Et donc, nous utilisons à travers le système national de surveillance des forêts une période d'analyse qui va de l'année 1990 à l'année 2014, avec des points de changement qui sont déjà disponibles. Et le niveau de référence, tel que nous l'attendons, sera basé sur la période 2000-2014, même s'il y aura des points additionnels qui vont être ajoutés au fur et à mesure que nous allons y travailler. Alors, nous essayons de faire en sorte que la méthodologie que nous utilisons pour la cartographie de la couverture forestière, mais aussi pour la détection des changements, soit suffisamment transparente, disponible et qui puisse être distribuée, évaluée par quiconque. Alors, nous sommes bien conscients que la dégradation forestière constitue une activité importante dans le cadre de notre niveau de référence, comme l'a confirmé la littérature. Il y a des auteurs qui disent que la dégradation forestière en RDC représente pratiquement la moitié de ce qu'est la déforestation, mais qu'il y a de très nombreux gaps dans les données historiques qui font référence à la dégradation forestière et qu'il y a donc des études en cours pour essayer de voir comment est-ce qu'on peut avoir des estimations historiques de la dégradation forestière, aussi bien au niveau des concessions forestières que de l'utilisation du bois par les ménages, etc. Donc des études en cours. Alors comme d'autres pays, le choix par rapport à la biomasse sera celui de la biomasse aérienne et biomasse souterraine, même si dans certaines zones du pays, il existe des données sur d'autres poules de carbone, mais ces données doivent être consolidées pour qu'elles soient suffisamment utiles et être intégrées dans le niveau de référence. Et le CO2 sera le seul gaz à présent qui sera pris en compte dans le niveau de référence, donc ce qui est aussi une attitude conservative de la part de la RDC. En ce qui concerne les données d'activité, comme je l'ai mentionné, donc c'est essentiellement par l'utilisation des images de télédétection avec des images Landsat sur base d'une méthodologie qui est largement inspirée de nos frères de l'autre côté, de l'autre poumon, qui sont nos frères brésiliens. On a mis en œuvre une méthodologie similaire qui a été adaptée dans le contexte spécifique de la RDC avec évidemment des validations avec des équipes de terrain. En ce qui concerne les facteurs d'émission, ils sont essentiellement basés sur les inventaires forestiers. Et donc, il y a un travail de pré-inventaire qui est fait pratiquement pour l'ensemble du pays et qui est un inventaire national complet qui a été fait pour la province du Bandundu, qui est l'une des provinces qui est visée par le niveau de référence qui sera soumis. Pour l'instant, comme mesure intérimaire, nous nous proposons d'utiliser l'équation de Chaves 2014, même si l'on a remarqué que dans le cas des données du Bandundu, cette équation sous-estimait un tout petit peu les valeurs de biomasse, mais nous considérons cela aussi comme une approche conservative pour la RDC. Il y a des travaux en cours avec plusieurs partenaires pour voir si nous serons amenés à déterminer une équation plus spécifique à la RDC, mais cela c'est dans les prochaines soumissions, mais les travaux sont en cours. Alors, en ce qui concerne la stratification forestière, donc les facteurs d'émission sont attendus à ce qu'il puisse y avoir un facteur d'émission par strate. Donc, on a défini 4 strates forestières qui sont les forêts denses humides, sur terre ferme, sur sol hydromorphe, les forêts secondaires ainsi que les forêts claires. Alors, bien évidemment, il y a cette analyse en cours pour voir comment est-ce que cette stratification forestière qui sera adoptée dans le cadre du niveau de référence est compatible avec celle qui est utilisée dans les autres projets que j'ai mentionnés dans les différentes zones qui seront visés par le niveau de référence, c'est-à-dire le projet Maindombe ou le projet à l'est de la RDC, et aussi bien les projets dans le centre du pays, à Mbujimayi et Kananga. Pour l'approche de construction, donc la période de référence, je l'ai dit, sera de 2000 à 2014. Il y aura une validité qui ne sera pas inférieure à 5 ans. Mais là, on est en train de voir comment est-ce qu'on peut essayer de calculer les changements dans la couverture forestière et dans les émissions tous les 2 à 3 ans, mais cela reste à déterminer d'ici le premier trimestre de l'année prochaine. Alors, bien évidemment, la RDC étant un pays à couvert forestier très important, presque 150 millions d'hectares, avec un taux de déforestation qui est très très faible, comme l'a mentionné le collègue de la Zambie, je crois, tout à l'heure. Et donc, se baser uniquement sur la moyenne historique ne va pas être très incitant pour la RDC par rapport à son niveau de référence. Donc, il y aura besoin d'un ajustement qui est nécessaire. Et pour cela, il y a différentes voies qui sont explorées. Il y a par exemple le fait qu'il y a un consensus national sur les causes de la déforestation et la dégradation forestière en RDC. Une idée serait de voir comment on pourrait évoluer ces causes-là et mettre un lien avec la perte future de la couverture forestière. Il y a des études qui existent, comme la demande en terre future pour la RDC. Il y a différents modèles, comme le modèle Congo Biome, qui d'ailleurs sera présenté, je crois, demain dans une des salles ici, qui prédit la demande en terre, donc la déforestation future de la RDC, et donc voir si on ne peut pas lier ces études-là et faire un ajustement. Ou alors, il y a bien évidemment aussi, comme l'a mentionné le collègue du Congo voisin, nos frères du Congo voisin, qui parle aussi de cette émergence à l'horizon 2030 pour la RDC, ce qui va sans doute avoir une influence sur la couverture forestière. Et donc, c'est de voir comment est-ce qu'on peut faire une évaluation de ces plans de développement et leurs impacts futurs sur le niveau de déforestation. Alors, en ce qui concerne l'amélioration du niveau de référence, c'est-à-dire qu'on doit bien évidemment faire ces estimations de changement, faire cette consolidation des facteurs d'émission, notamment pour les différentes strates qui vont être prises en compte, et que cela soit cohérent, consistant au niveau des différentes zones ou provinces visées par le niveau de référence. On doit finaliser l'approche d'ajustement, finaliser cette étude sur les équations allométriques en cours pour voir si nous continuons d'utiliser l'équation pour laquelle on a opté pour le moment ou alors avoir des équations qui sont plus spécifiques. Alors évidemment inclure la dégradation forestière et l'augmentation des stocks de carbone. Alors en ce qui concerne la dégradation, je vais terminer par là. Donc il y a des études qui sont en cours pour voir comment est-ce qu'on pourrait retrouver les émissions historiques issues de la dégradation forestière. Et donc on espère que d'ici le premier trimestre de l'année prochaine, ces études seront finalisées. Voilà, je vous remercie beaucoup.
We'll go for our last presentation by our colleague of Colombia. And while he's coming, what I will do is I will change a bit because I'm pretty sure you have lots of burning questions. So instead of me asking questions to the panel, I will open the floor for people to ask questions directly. So please, Gustavo.
Thank you, Maria. Okay, thank you very much. Colombia submitted its subnational forest reference level last year in 2014. So in this presentation, I'm going to highlight the key elements of the national forest reference levels, talking also about the learning process related with it. So we started working in the Amazon biome. We have we work in 5 subnational areas of reference for REDD, and we started working in the Amazon region. That it's located in the orange color. It's mostly forest. It comprised for about 40 million hectares of forest. So the land tenure in there, it's about mostly from indigenous communities. There's also national parks, and there are also rural communities, and there's also non-information on that land related with the all Colombian forest. In the Amazon, most of the land tenure is related with indigenous communities and national parks. So for the forest emissions reference level components, for the definitions, we started working with a definition of forest that is land mainly covered by trees, that contains different other covers, and where tree cover predominates. Canopy cover of 30%, maximum minimum height is 5 meters, a minimum area of 1 hectare. And we are excluding the commercial forest plantations, oil palm plantations, planted trees for agricultural production, and trees in urban parks. This is the same definition that we're using in the National Monitoring System, in the GHG inventories, and in MDL land projects. And there were inconsistencies with the definition based on another of reports like the one of FAO, in which we were using the 10% canopy cover, and that's something that we are going to talk later. Deforestation is defined as the conversion of forest cover from other times as land cover in a period of time. So the national reference level subnational area is comprised for about 45 million hectares of forest. About 8% of the land is from non-forest areas, and mostly are Amazon virgin forest. About the types of forests that exist here, we have tropical moist forest, tropical wet forest, and pre-montane wet forest in a very specific area of the Amazon. So why do we choose this subnational area? Because most of the deforestation in the country is there. Most of the activities to start working in deforestation that have to be highlighted there. About 70% of the deforestation in the country is located in the Amazon. So it was the first area where we had to start doing activities. We have to start evaluating how good or how bad we were doing in doing the monitoring and doing about taking into account the monitoring, the emission factors, and starting doing the actions to start reducing deforestation. So the activities that we choose were reducing emissions from deforestation. Those activities including of reducing emission from deforestation were basically obtained from Landsat information. The emission factors are based in a stratification based in Holdridge, in bioclimatic classification, in which the vegetation is classified based in bioclimatic information of evapotranspiration, precipitation, and as a proxy, annual temperature. The national allometric equations were based in information gathered from trees harvested in the country. Alvarez et al. 2012 is the publication that is based in which the national estimations are worked with. And the pools included are above ground biomass and below ground biomass. For the other pools, there is no information currently available for their incorporation in the reference levels. The emission factors were gathered based in plots gathered by different researchers in the country. They are not based in a statistical based sample. And for the activity-based data, we worked based in-country methodologies worked out, in which we are based in Landsat imagery, in which we work to detect deforestation in an automatic way. But in the final stages, we have a quality control analysis to check polygon by polygon the changes. So the deforestation, the baseline was 2000 to 2012. Annual report for it with an average deforestation of about 82,000 hectares per year. We also included national circumstances. Colombia is moving forward to a peace process. Most of the activities, illegal activities are in the Amazon, and even though during the last 10-15 years there has been a constant growth in the GDP in the country, deforestation has remained constant during all these years. And as part of the agreements of the peace process, it's expected that there is an increase in infrastructure and also in land tenure that could increase deforestation. So based in that national circumstances, we have a 10% adjustment over the average. So these are the estimation of the Forest Reference Emission Levels based in the information that we have. We use a factor of 0.47 and an average of 154 tons of carbon per hectare. So how was the process? We submitted the reference level in mid-December. After 8 weeks, we received the preliminary analysis and we had a session, an assessment session during 1 week in mid-February. Afterwards, there was a very good interchange of communications between the evaluators, the assessments of the technical analysis, and us, asking for additional clarifications for the reference emission levels. Some of them were handled by phone, some of them were written, and we handled a party response. Afterwards, there was a request if we wanted to do some kind of adjustment of the reference level that was done. Some of the clarifications were taken into account, and we did the adjustment after the requested period of time. And the preparation of the final report was for publication was in August of this year. So most of the biggest important thing of it is that it's a learning by doing process. It's not a punitive process, and it has all the open space so that we can grow, that we can learn as part of the process. There are not perfect things in it, and there are a lot of things that need to have adjustment in the reference levels. But this is an open process for education also of the different topics related with the reference levels. We also had to take into account the considerations of the technical assessment. The technical elements are basically based in the Ministry of the Environment. However, there are also technical assessment related with an EDM that is the technical part of the Ministry of the Environment, and also the subnational and the regional elements of the environmental sector that are also related with the environmental activities of the country. There is a political committee that takes the decisions, basically the Ministry of the Environment, and they have to work together. That's the key issue. The technical elements and the political elements have to work together in all these learning process. And basically the submission is based by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. But I want to highlight that that's a key case, that there is a support from the political level about the results and about the process that the technical level is handling out. So one of the key things about the challenges that we dealt was to establish consistency between the forest reference levels and the GHD inventories that were handled. We had submitted 2 GHD inventories in the national communications that had been presented to the UNFCCC. The GHD related with forest was based in information that was not the one in which we constructed the reference levels. The national monitoring system started working only 5 years ago. There were a complete change in the methodologies, the results that were being based, and the BUR that is going to be presented actually Monday is going to incorporate all the methodologies, exactly the same methodologies and the results that we presented in the National Forest Reference Level. However, the consistency, I believe it's the key factor, because you have to take also into account that many of what you are building, the process, the activity data, and the emission factors has to be in-country based. You have to link it in the future all the time with all the information of the reference levels that will be submitted and the technical adjustment. So this is a key factor, and also that you have to take into account all the other land covers different from forest and their emissions all the time. You have to take into account also the kind of guidelines that you're using for the report of the GHG. Other important thing is to use reference data for better activity data estimates, and National Forest Inventory for better statistical sampling of biomass and inclusion of additional pools. In this moment, Colombia is starting its first National Forest Inventory based in an statistical sampling. We are gathering in this year 10% of the samples, and we expect to have it finished in 2 years from now. From there, we will have additional information about the other pools that were not covered in the reference level. Also, it's important that for activity data estimates, we are working to reduce the uncertainty of the estimates based in higher resolution, and also on the information that is being produced by the National Forest Inventory. Another key challenge is to move from the subnational to the national coverage. Actually, the National Forest Monitoring System is having information at the national level. We are producing the results now yearly, based in the same methodology, etc. However, the challenge is how to cover all the past, all the information of the past. So that's what we're doing this year. We are working to have the activity data, and we hope also that the information of the National Forest Inventory can help us also to have to move forward to the national coverage in a short period of time. We also have a time frame, and we expect that for 2017, we are going to submit the National Forest Reference Level. There's also a key thing about this also, and is that for the Amazon biome in Colombia is the only area in the country where deforestation it's increasing all the time, while in the other areas there is a tendency years ago of reduction. Most of the GDP of the country, most of the citizens are in the Andean and the Caribbean region. And we expect to expand the activities to include forest degradation. The activities of forest degradation were not included here because we don't have robust results with low uncertainties, and we are working on it. So this is.
We have 10 to 12 minutes left, so I think I'm pretty sure you have better questions than I do. I think we open the floor for questions. Can we pass the mic, please? There's one on the back. If you don't get questions, I'll put the questions, but I prefer you have a preference, a priority for the questions. Identify yourself and please identify also which panelist you want to answer.
Bonjour, Florian Kless, je suis doctorant au CIRAD. J'avais une question pour le coordinateur national de la RDC. Je voulais savoir, on a entendu ces dernières semaines l'annonce du gouvernement norvégien pour le fonds CAFI. Je voulais savoir comment vous comptiez l'utiliser pour mettre en place et mesurer votre, ou alors actualiser votre niveau de référence.
We collect 2 or 3 questions and then we just give the floor to the panelists. Next. Yes, please.
Yeah, I am Toen Manfred from Cameroon, studying in Hohenheim University, Germany. My question goes to the representative of Zambia. I wanted to find out when he talked about increase in the use of charcoal because of reduction in water flow in the rivers for hydroelectricity. How does this, or what are the interests of the government in order to counter this? Because we know charcoal gives a lot of carbon emissions and stuff, and it's like contradicting reduction of emissions. Thank you.
Okay, I guess, can you ask the first question, Jean-Paul, and then Deuteronomy, the second one?
Ok, merci. Je vais répondre en français alors, comme la question était en français. Donc, je voudrais d'abord préciser que je ne suis pas le coordonnateur national de la REDD. S'il m'entendait, il se fâcherait. Il est au Bourget, mais nous sommes ensemble, on travaille ensemble. Donc, je le représente ici. Évidemment, donc, le fonds CAFI, donc Central Africa Forest Initiative, c'est un fonds qui est en train d'être mis sur pied pour accompagner le processus REDD dans les prochaines années, sur les 5 et 10 prochaines années. Et donc, les activités qui sont prévues, qui vont être mises en œuvre grâce à ce fonds-là, certaines d'entre elles vont évidemment aider à gérer les challenges que l'on a identifiés pour l'établissement du niveau de référence. Par exemple, tout ce qui concerne l'accompagnement de la dégradation forestière, comment limiter cela, avec des initiatives diversifiées, ben, le fonds CAFI va justement aider par la mise en œuvre de certaines activités. Et donc ce n'est pas un fonds qui est directement orienté vers le niveau de référence, mais certaines des activités supportées par ce fonds permettront d'accompagner le niveau de référence. J'espère que ça a été clair.
Deuteronomy, a second.
Thank you very much. A question on the situation of charcoal. I think Zambia received less rainfall. I think that's what I said. And as a result of that, our main source of power generation is the Kariba Dam. And the water levels have been low. And as a result of that, there's been a lot of load shedding in the country. And to mitigate that, people have shifted into charcoal use. Now, the government is aware of that. In fact, the national REDD strategy that has been developed provides that alternative source of energy must be looked at before even there is load shedding now, because it is a concern. But we must also know that charcoal production is also a livelihood for people, so you can't just stop it, otherwise there will be an uproar and it might be very uncomfortable. But I must say that I think last month the government actually advertised for various institutions or companies that can support the government in providing alternative sources of energy, and we'll see how that will go. So that's how the government is addressing that. It's not a simple issue. You can't just wake up and say stop charcoal, because there are people that live on charcoal. Thank you.
So I also encourage the panelists themselves to ask questions to each other. Any other question from the floor? There's three questions I see. 4. Well, you already have your opportunity, so we'll leave you for the end. One here, one on the back, and one on the other back.
Frank Martin Seifert from European Space Agency. I saw in one presentation that specifically a forest definition was referred to REDD. Do you all use one forestry definition for as well REDD as and for National Forest Inventory? Thank you.
You go to the second question.
Hi, Tony Knowles here. Just a question to Jean-Paul from the DRC. Have you considered splitting the area in which you develop the reference level? So have, say, a separate one for the Eastern DRC versus the Western DRC? Because from the bit of work that we've done in the Eastern DRC, there's certainly much higher deforestation rates there. And if one takes a national average, you may be not creating sufficient incentive. Thank you.
Just pick up the third question and then panelists can answer. It was a third question somewhere there.
Looking forward, the satellite information coming from NASA that the satellite went up last year. It's been producing very good resolution data. Do you consider using the satellite open source data from there for the next round of MRVs? Thanks.
I think there were the first question was for any panelists that want to answer. So who likes to start?
Well, for the forest definition, there is consistency in the forest definition that we're using in the monitoring system. The universe that you're using, that we're working with in the National Forest Inventory is all the country. So it would help us to know a little bit more about how good we are with the information that we have of remote sensing based in the ground information that is being obtained in this moment.
Someone else want to comment on the definition?
Well, I can also comment on the definition. Yeah, I mean, for the DRC, we use the same definition for, forest management and for the FREL. So it's not really a problem for us. I mean, so it's the same based on specific measure or 3/8 canopy cover and area. So.
George?
Oui, pour la République du Congo, la même définition a été prise en compte pour le niveau national, puisque la nouvelle loi a intégré cette définition.
Chivin. Yes, please go ahead.
For Cambodia, we have two different forest definitions. That one is forest, as you mentioned. So we will use this definition forest as national forest inventory because of our considering forest in REDD plus definition abstract from oil palm, rubber. So we don't do this forest inventory with those areas. Thank you.
You want to comment?
Yes, just wanted to say that for Zambia there is only one definition for forests, and this definition covers all aspects, because forest monitoring, where carbon is just a component of the forest.
I can comment a bit on that. I mean, you remember that there was a long discussions about the forest definition in the Kyoto Protocol because of thresholds and so on. what we all found when we were trying to look this, and this is my own experience in developed countries, but also while working with developing countries, is that you have to define your collection of data in a way that you can easily extract the data for a particular definition that you have to apply, so that if you want to apply particular definitions for particular purposes, it's very easy and consistent across the inventory data, or a broader definition, or a narrower definition you have. So that's, I think, very important to keep in mind that, so that you don't make classes, for example, that later on are very difficult or are overlapping, and then it's extremely impossible to extract the data. Can we go for the second question? Jean-Paul, I think was over to you.
Yeah, and thanks for this question. Yeah, it's sure that when you look at Eastern DRC in the province of Kivu and Goma with immigration and all the problems we have there, and the deforestation is very high compared to the other part of the country, so that's true. And when you look at Western DRC, where you have lower population, although you have the attractivity of Kinshasa, a big city of millions of persons, so the deforestation is also quite high, but not compared to the Eastern DRC. Although we're gonna do this this average, well, the way we're gonna do that, we still try to figure out how we will do it effectively. One way could be to make an average for Eastern DRC first, and then make another average for the other part, and then try to look something between for the two. So it's not like we will make an average for all of these three provinces, but there's going to be some kind of adjustment in the average.
Let me to comment and ask you a little bit more on that. I think that the choice was also due to the fact that you are planning to implement activities first on the part that you are selecting for the subnational now. So that's one of the reasons why, right?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
And who wants to answer the third question?
I think for the third question is whether we're still considering open source software for NEC assessment or MOV assessment. For Cambodian, as we are still considering wall-to-wall assessment, so medium resolution from available lens set is still used. So we just what we're looking is how we can approach from the capacity point of view, and then what is the consistent between the historical level that we chosen. So this is what I can say. Sorry.
Well. Okay, second round. I think we have a second round there for the gentleman from Cameroon, and a second round here for our gentleman from ISA. You want to again? And no, it's okay. Well, then.
Well, just one comment related to the use of satellite data. The European Commission and ESA has just the day before yesterday opened the data stream of Sentinel-2 data, which is 10-meter resolution data free of charge for everybody for download.
I'm afraid you need a very wide band of internet to download this. Well, I think we are all almost at the end, and I will try to summarize in 1 minute, which is a challenge because the richness of the presentations and the amazing work that the countries are doing. I mean, I've been in this process of reference levels for my life almost, and I have to say that this is an unprecedented way of approaching this by developing countries at this stage. It is, I admire you, I have to say, your work and the seriousness on how you're approaching this. But we have common challenges, as you can see. I mean, Cambodia was highlighting the definition issue, that they have to decide how best suit the purpose of REDD in the country through the definition. There is also the challenge of how you convey this in a simple manner, including to your stakeholders that George was highlighting. Deuteronomy was saying, look, this is not only for reporting greenhouse inventories or for REDD+, it's for our domestic action, so we have to keep this in mind. And I think this is something which is said more and more by developing countries. They are not collecting all this data, they are not making these efforts just for reporting, they're making these efforts for making better planning, better decisions, and they are expanding beyond forests in many cases. I think